The next session is Coming of Age, the mainstreaming of parallel cinema. I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Ms. Ratna Pathak Shah, actor and director, Ms. Suhasini Maniratnam, actor and director, Mr. Amit Masurkar, director and screenwriter. I also invite Veena Venugopal, Associate Editor, The Hindu, to moderate the session.
Good afternoon. We apologize for this change in the schedule and the fact that lunch is now 20 minutes later than it was scheduled, but we hope to fill your stomachs with good talk on cinema. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about the people on the stage with me before we start off on the panel. Amit Masurkar on the extreme left is a young director. His first film, Sulaimani Kida, was well reviewed but flew below the radar. His second film, Newton, is a brilliantly told story about a young government officer who volunteers to go to a remote village in Chhattisgarh and goes above and beyond his duty to ensure that the elections are free and fair. It was India's nominee for the Oscars last year, and that firmly places Amit Masurkar in the big league now. On my left is Ratna Pathak Shah, a joy of theatre and parallel cinema, and wonderfully for us, an increasing presence in mainstream cinema as well. She was in Lipstick Under My Burqa last year, which is the movie that angered our censors the most in 2017. She's an outspoken champion of good cinema. I want to tell you that I ran into a BuzzFeed article whose headline was 14 times Ratna Pathak Shah dropped truth bombs about Bollywood. So clearly, if BuzzFeed thinks anyone over 25 is cool, then there is no challenging that position. Suhasini Maniratnam, actor, writer, director, social activist, has been an icon of South Indian films for more than 3 decades now. She has won state and national awards, which is a great testimony to her talent, of course. For readers of The Hindu, you would be familiar with our intrepid letter writer, J. Matribhutam, who refers to Suhasini in pretty much every column of his on Sunday. He took privileged leave to watch a Suhasini film first day, first show. He gets very irritated when someone interrupts him when he's watching your songs on DVD. And I want to quote that in one of his columns, he said, he asked, is there any self-control in today's world? Everybody and everything, either everybody and everything is the greatest of great in the history of mankind, such as Suhasini, or it is the most horrible thing that must be condemned immediately, such as chaat masala. So in life's great scale, Suhasini is on top and chaat masala is at the bottom, which I think is pretty much as it should be. Let me begin this discussion by asking the audience, how many of you have watched Dabangg? Okay. How many of you have liked Dabangg? That's a fairly large number. Ratna Pathak Shah, you said about Dabangg, this is our 100th year as a film-producing nation, and today, supposing a bomb drops on the world, and supposing all that is left is Dabangg, what will it say about the way Indians behave towards each other? What would it say about our civilization? I want to begin by asking you, is the chase for meaningful cinema, because Dabangg is a very popular film, as you've seen, an elitist obsession? And supposing a bomb were to fall tomorrow, what should our cinema say about our civilization?
My God, that's a huge question to start off with, and you've already put me at a disadvantage by asking how many people have seen it and liked it.
But BuzzFeed has said you're cool, so you can get away with it.
All right, so I shall go and get ahead with it. You know, I come from a time when people talked about India, they talked about the great art and culture that has existed in our country for 3,000 years and had been forgotten and then resurrected. And that was what I was hearing when I was growing up, you know, Anand Kumaraswamy or something like that. And suddenly I find that all India seems to represent outside our own shores. And that's the image we seem to want to show of ourselves to the world. Seems to be Bollywood. I'm a little concerned about that, I have to say. Bollywood is not India. It is a very kitsch and a very, very vulgar idea of India. A simplistic, a very childish, not childlike, childish idea of India, where everything is wonderful. It has promoted hypocrisy in our society beyond belief. I work with young actors, and I can't tell you how hard it is to get anyone to behave in the way human beings behave towards each other. They immediately slip into Bollywood mode. I find that scary. I find that it's like saying, you know, all of American civilization is Hollywood. It may be, but but I would hate to be an American who has to deal with that kind of a comment, you know. And I hate to be an Indian who is known for Bollywood everywhere. And therefore, I made this comment. And I'm not against Dabangg because it's an entertaining film and a lot of people enjoy it. I have enjoyed a lot of these kind of films. I don't like Dabangg in particular, but I think Bajrangi Bhaijaan was perfectly fun while I was watching it. But a film like Dabangg is giving out such ugly messages to our society, particularly with reference to women. When you have a large number of young, unsupervised men in all our metros, when our family systems are breaking apart as quickly as they are, what does Dabangg say to a young man who's barely making enough to eat, who can't even buy sex? That person and several others like him are, prowling our streets today. And our response to that is to continue showing Dabangg over and over again. I find that really objectionable. I find it scary. And I don't think it talks well about our civilization.
So if Bollywood is not the correct representation of India, and if that is not the kind of cinema that one must look at etching the contours of our civilization.
I have a problem about Bollywood being the only representative of it. I'm saying Indian cinema today. And when I say Indian, I don't mean Hindi, for God's sake. There's oodles of stuff happening all over the country. From north, south, east, west, everyone is experimenting at the moment. And that is the cinema, I think, that will show us what we are really like, not Bollywood.
So what really has been the evolution of the art house film, and what place does that play in society?
I think there is a lot of things that are common between reading a book and watching a movie. But if you were to talk about watching a film in 1980, 90, or even 2010, you can't easily put the book down and say, like, today I'm in a bad mood, I will come back and read it later. You can't do that in a movie because you've fixed. You've told your family that it's an outing and you've bought the tickets and you've that day, even if you had a bad day in the office, you still go and see the film and you get a headache. You get a headache because you are not in the right frame of mind. I mean, that's how films are seen, and the expectation from films are also very, very different. But with evolution now, with so much digitization and everything, if watching a film can become like reading a book at your convenience, and any book that you want, which is not available, but you can search on the internet and get, if movies become like that, I think this line between the commercial cinema and the parallel cinema will go away.
Yeah.
Even the full-length film and the short film also, that line is blurring quickly.
Short film also, yes, that is an advantage. So, I'm coming back to the question of what is art cinema. I think, in the beginning, people who knew how to tell a story made films. Okay? So it was art. It was necessarily art. people who were educated, who read a lot, made movies. But then it was free for all. Okay? And that is when, as a rebellion, art house movies were made at a later stage. And where was art house movies, parallel cinema started? In places like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Russia, and later in Iran in the 80s. Wherever society was oppressed and there was some kind of a restriction, only when there was restriction, people rebelled and they were making a statement. Even in art house cinema, there are cliche and stereotyped art cinema. So all art cinema is not great. Like you're saying, all commercial films are also not bad. I mean, you'll agree with me. So all art cinema is also not great. Some of the art cinema actually puts you to sleep. But today, times have changed because filmmakers are not trying to make a statement so that they are noticed for their ideologies. I think they're more confident. People like, Amit is more confident. I don't think he cares a hoot whether you appreciate his ideologies. He just wants to tell you a story in a fashion that he thinks is perfect for the world today. So his story is extraordinary, and he's trying to tell you in a fashion that you all understand. So that is what is merging the line between art house cinema and commercial cinema. I mean, that's what I think.
So Amit, let me come to you and ask you that, assuming that when you know that you have an extraordinary story to tell, as you did with Newton, what are the practical challenges in getting it made? How difficult, in your experience, was it to, say, get someone to finance it, to make sure that there is a distributor and that people are able to watch what you've made? And how was it different between your first and second film? Because in terms of scale, they have been the second one has been a far bigger film, as it were.
My first film was about two writing partners in Bollywood who were trying to make a film. It was a very low budget film. We made it and released it. The total budget was less than 40 lakhs. It was that cheap. So after that, whenever I would meet producers or studio heads, they would ask me to do something similar. They wanted something like a buddy rom-com kind of space, and I had Newton. Newton was something I'd written, and I would show it to them. And this happened 3 or 4 times when people would say, why do you want to make a film about politics? Because the youth is not interested in politics. This is something that people believed in the studio system. So naturally, I wanted to make a film, so I started writing something else. But then I luckily met the producer who produced Newton, so I just narrated the story to him. And he saw potential in it, because at the end of the day, politics is also, it is another form of entertainment for common people. People are aware of, news, So obviously, I felt that this film, despite being a political film, would reach out to people. So for me, the struggle is never about selling a film. It's always about getting the right idea, working on the idea, and getting it ready in order to go and shoot. So that the writing process is always the struggle.
Ratna Pathak Shah, for someone who's a poster girl of alternate cinema, you've also acted in some mainstream film. You have Mubarkan, which recently released. Love Per Square Foot is out now, this weekend. You were also in the Golmaal franchise. I want to ask you, what is the process you follow in sort of switching off your serious thinking self while doing a film which is a mainstream Bollywood movie? And how do you sell the idea of a Golmaal to yourself?
Oh, very easily. There's a very nice paycheck at the end of it. Very easy to say yes to something like that. But apart from that, I thought it was a good script. It really was. When these people came and narrated the script to me, there were 2 writers, and it was such an entertaining afternoon because they just told the whole story to me with full action dialogue. And, I had such a ball. And it was funny. It really was funny. And I enjoyed the idea, so I said yes to it. But to go back to the earlier part of your question, which is to say, is it necessary to switch off my serious self? I don't think there are... Well, I take my job very seriously. My job as an actor, I take it extremely seriously, whether I'm acting in Golmaal or I'm not. And in fact, when I'm acting in Golmaal, I'm even more conscious of my responsibility because that person is paying me a lot of money. And I must get what that person wants right. And I'm no serious snoot in that way. I'm quite happy to let my hair down and have a ball on the set. So I don't find it difficult at all. But I don't see any need to switch off my abilities and my process as an actress. It's the same process. I've cut my teeth on television, don't forget. Now, if you want to get lowbrow, it's hard to get lower brow than TV. Though in those days, it was a different kind of TV. But anyway, I think comedy is about the most difficult thing I've ever done. I had to learn on the job. I had no skills as a comic actress, and I only got comedy to do to start with. So that's what I worked on. And I took that as seriously as I would, in fact, more seriously than I would a more serious or a part which is a dramatic part. That's fairly easy to pull off. A little bit of crying and shouting gets you by. And in India, an actress who can cry is a very fine actress. She need do nothing else. Wonderful actress. She cries so beautifully. If she looks beautiful and her eyes fill with water, usse zyada aur kuch nahi chahiye humko.
I want to extend that question to you, Suhasini, and ask you to speak.
Before you ask the question, how can you let all these trade secrets out? Big eyes, calm face, but tears in the eyes. Gives you so many checks. Okay, you can't tell people all our trade secrets.
Of course we must. We fooled them so long. We need to wake them up a little bit also now.
God, I've heard it from so many directors. You look better when you cry than when you laugh.
And I bet she's a damn good comic actress. Right?
So what is the role of actors in bridging this gap between mainstream and parallel cinema? Are they the most important sort of point of inflection?
I think the audience is the most important factor in bridging the gap between mainstream cinema and parallel cinema. If they become aware of the kind of movies that they want to see, is when the director like him and the youngsters will have the confidence to come up with a story. But then a lot is in the actor's hands. If the actor decides to support a good film, nothing like it. I think that's really a miracle. It is slowly happening in Bollywood films, but in the South Indian industry, if you take it, it's only Malayalam films. Yes, they've been realistic all the time, but they keep going yo-yo. Sometimes they copy Tamil films, and every hero wants to be like Rajinikanth, and then they fail in Malayalam. They can't be that Rajinikanth. But in Tamil films, from the beginning, Shivaji was one person who experimented with all newer and smaller film directors, and Kamal Hassan followed it. And then Rajni also joined him in the beginning of his career. If you take the two of them, Kamal Hassan and Rajnikant, they've made films like Padinaru Vaidinle and Aval Apaditan, which is a completely cult film on women's liberation in the late 70s. They didn't have a role. It was a heroine-oriented film. Sri Priya played that role, but these two acted. So if actors can put their mind, definitely the gap can be bridged. I act in a lot of Telugu films. Like, Telugu films are really, really commercial. I mean, they are like the Bollywood films. There is no difference at all. Now Bollywood has changed, but Telugu is still sticking to their commercial formula. And when I ask my producers, how come there is no change in it? The producers say, we are ready to put in the money, but the actors are not ready to take the risk, like the Tamil heroes are taking that one step forward. Kamal has done it, and Shivaji had done it earlier, so Vikram or Surya or Dhanush are not scared, because somebody had opened the path. That one person is needed among all actors. Even with heroines.
Is there that one person in Bollywood now?
Pardon?
Is there that one person in Bollywood now?
I think they're all trying. Amir and Shah Rukh are all trying, but I don't know. Even Akshay Kumar, doing a Padman after doing karate movies in the beginning. But it's a good change. It's a good change. It's a good exposure, really. And I will tell you the downside of heroines in South Indian film industry. When Queen was to be remade, all the top heroines rejected it.
Oh, I see.
They wanted to be only the glamour, easy heroine in a big budget film. I mean, Queen was offered to all the top heroines and all of them refused.
I'm surprised to hear that.
They were scared.
But I want to differ from you a little bit. I think the time is now coming for films which will be cast because of the rightness of the person doing the part. as opposed to a big star lending her name, his name, to a project. I have seen that happen for too long in the Hindi film world. You see, I have never been in the thick of it. I have been a fly on the wall. I never got any work when I was much younger. I just did not. The only work I got was on television. My husband, on the other hand, was acting in every art film and quite a few commercial films also at the same time. So I was the fly on the wall watching this whole process take place, and it was a very interesting position to be in. So I've seen so many young filmmakers of that time, of the 70s, who started out with a great script, got a bunch of actors together, put it together, something like Jaane Bhi Do Yaaron or Bhavni Bhavai. I'm talking about the films I saw happen around me in those days. And within their next two films, they had all gravitated towards the star. They found that they couldn't make movies unless they roped in a star. It dried them out. It's happened to too many directors in this country. The star has sucked all the good out of that director. The star comes with a system. There's no getting away from it. I don't know how it operates in the South. I'm sure there's a difference because the stars there are significantly different. But any star, even a very well-meaning star, brings a certain baggage to the project. And in my experience, the star has depleted directors in our country rather than fed them. I hope Amit and his generation have different stories to tell.
Yes, I was going to ask you, Amit, does that scare you? That a star might come and sort of suck your creativity
Not
dry
really.
in that sense?
I don't see any reason to be scared of it because I haven't yet been there. Rajkumar was pretty successful when he did Newton,
Yeah.
and I think the younger generation, especially those who are not from film families, they realize that they have to work hard and they can't, they have to, that's the only way they can go ahead. And it's only when you're supremely talented and then you get a chance, when you're not from a film family. So when you get that chance, you really cherish it and you want to give your best. And that's what I noticed with Raj. So.
I also wanted to ask you, you've said that Hindi films now have to, or Indian films now are not just competing with each other, but they're also competing with Hollywood and other international releases. With distribution being so easy now with Netflix and Amazon Prime, is that an advantage or a disadvantage for someone like you, who's a young aspiring filmmaker? Because I would think you would get an audience, but you have to really fight for that audience at the same time.
I think if you look at the programming of Amazon and Netflix, you'll see that a lot of the content that is made in the US or UK is extremely progressive. They are doing shows like Transparent about a 70-year-old man who decides to have a sex change. They're doing shows which are extremely ahead of their times, even for the US standards, And it's playing a big role in sensitizing the younger audiences. Politically also. So I feel that that change will only happen with the internet because the internet as a medium is very democratic. Anybody can access it.
So far.
Yeah. And, sorry?
So far,
So far, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, people can always, even if they try to, there's always a way around it. Even in China, they access Facebook and YouTube. So the internet is, you can access anything and everything you want. So that way, I think it's a good way of distributing content, and I really am optimistic about cinema.
Yeah.
Also, as someone who is not a trained director and from a film family, what is your advice to people such as yourself who want to make a break in the film industry, whether it is as an actor or a director or a scriptwriter?
I can only tell from my personal experience. I think I'm from the first generation of internet filmmakers, because my education happened on the internet. That's how I discovered new cinema. That's how I discovered screenwriting. I saw interviews. I looked at online tutorials. That's how I studied filmmaking. Of course, I went on the set. I was assisting people. But now, more and more people, you'll notice that we were shooting in Raipur for Newton. And you'll be surprised by the number of people who are able to watch foreign films sitting in a small town, So the exposure level is almost the same. If you are a film lover and you're sitting in a small town, you can still access the same films that somebody can access in a film school. Of course, I would never downplay the part that a film school plays on a student, because you're surrounded by that culture, you're surrounded by mentors, you have a you have a peer group who have similar ambitions, and you help each other in your process. But even if you're not from a film school background, you can still, there's still hope, because everything is available on the internet, and that's the way to go ahead.
Suhasini, what is your view on being a trained actor?
I have both the views in my home, because Mani is not a trained filmmaker. He's never worked with anybody, ever. So he finished his management and then straight away directed his first film. He didn't even know, he didn't ask anyone how to write a script and how to do scheduling, and there was no internet. But whereas I come from a film family, so I've seen my uncle work so hard. And then I went to film school, I studied for 3 years, I did cinematography. At that time, women were not even allowed to go for movies alone. And I was only girl student among 120 boys. I was the first female student of cinematography in India or whatever, something like that. But even that did not prepare me to face or to see international cinema. The first, we have, that's an amazing experience. On Fridays we have, are you from Pune Film Institute? No, you're not. Okay, Nazir is, isn't it? Okay, on Fridays we have screenings. It's so wonderful. You go to an institute and they show you films on Friday morning, and then you discuss it in the afternoon. So that, the first ever film they showed us was Bicycle Thieves by Victoria De Sica. And then everybody talked about the film except the lone woman. So my professor asked me, "Little miss, did you miss the bus?" I said, "Yes, I missed the bus." And you're not saying anything. So I was kind of ashamed in front of so many people, and then we walked to the canteen. PC Sriram was my senior, he was with me, another friend called Sharath and Srinivas, and I still remember Jayachandran. 4 of us were walking, and there was a little well, and I sat there, and I just broke down and I cried. I just broke down and I cried, because at 16 you never get to see a film like Bicycle Thieves in 1979. Okay, in that society, where else do you get to see it? You got to see it only in a film institute. So I think it is important for people who don't have exposure, of course. I'm not talking about the internet society, but even then, it'll be wonderful, because not just watching a film. When I was crying, the other 2 young boys were trying to console me, like typically how you look after your classmate. And PC Sriram said, "Leave her alone." She just realized what her future is going to be. She's realized the seriousness of cinema. She came in thinking it's going to be so rosy and so beautiful, because her uncle is already a great actor. He's already a star, and she thought she could just do it. 3 years and then she will make it. Now she understands what the difficulty of cinema is, because this is what cinema is about, not what she's seen in Shanti Theatre and Devi Theatre, and So that way I feel training in a film institute is really important for people. You might have exposure, the exposure that you have, but not all people grab where exposure is.
Yeah. You might have the exposure, but you definitely miss out on the conversations, I'm guessing.
Yes, surely. There are people to tell you, and like-minded people. 120 of them are there with you for 3 years. And they asked me during ragging, "Who's your favorite actor?" I blurted out a name, so they made me run around the campus for five times, and I'll never forget it,
What was the name?
Never. I'm not going to say it. Because I already have some 12 cases, criminal cases against me. Ram knows, and he was trying to help me out. Freedom of expression is not so easy in this country. 12 criminal cases against me. So let me just be quiet. At least that was a statement about Tamils. Here the statement is about an actor, so let me not even say it.
Yeah, and here's an interesting generational difference. There's a complete openness of access that Amit's generation has seen. My generation and Suhasini's definitely didn't. I, coming from Mumbai and having access, because my family is a film theatre family, so I had access and I could see much more. Bombay used to have so many film societies, and a lot of films were shown on Sunday mornings.
And you attended the National School of Drama as well?
I went to the National School of Drama. Unfortunately, we don't train actors in our country. We just don't know how to do it. Those who get trained, they find their own way. I don't know how, somehow. Upar wale ki der, something happens. But we don't know how to train actors, and we haven't bothered to invest in it. We are not interested in it. Because, after all, it is all good luck that gets an actor anywhere, no? It is all good luck. And also, this new... I'm a member of a film fraternity. I have derived the benefit of the fact that my mother was an actress before me, and my kids will derive the benefit of the fact that they are my kids and they want to be actors. But I tell you, this is bad news for the cinema industry. This incestuous world that we've got into, we just have to break out. We need fresh blood.
I have some good news for you. My son doesn't want to have anything to do with cinema.
How nice. I'm so happy to hear that. ये तो साली बाप की जागीर बन गई है.
I know you're a little tired of talking about Lipstick Under My Burqa, but it's a seminal film. And I'm curious to know how radical did you think your role was when you heard the story? You played the role of a woman in her 50s who's sort of having a sexual awakening of sorts. And what have women who have seen the film come and told you about how they feel about it?
Well, I jumped at the role. I'd never got anything halfway as interesting before, and I knew I'd never get anything like this again. So I would have been a complete idiot not to do it. So of course I was delighted with the fact that a film like this was being made, and I was being offered this particular part. It was just too good to be true. And I didn't think it would be difficult to do. I had a little moment of discomfort, but after having spoken with my director and seeing the way in which she was working on the other scenes, I really felt extremely comfortable, and we found our relationship quite smoothly. We found a way to go about that. I think it has been quite a life-changing role for me, for sure. Suddenly I've become an interesting person. I've been around for 40 years, guys, but suddenly I'm of some use to somebody. Anyway, I'm enjoying it while it lasts. But I tell you, this film has opened out so much conversation. I just love that. When I go shopping, I meet women who get into huge arguments with me. Why that end? She was a female director. Couldn't she at least have given the women some hope? Why does a woman see a woman's life so bleakly, etc.? And what fantastic discussions we've got into. Anywhere and everywhere, on railway stations. Alankrita tells me she got into this absolutely marvelous non-verbal communication with a Japanese lady of 80 who had seen the film at the Tokyo Film Festival. And they both just hugged each other and gesticulated and told each other life stories. You know, I mean, it's fantastic. In Miami, Florida, the kind of responses she got and she told us about, I wouldn't be surprised if I got them in Chandigarh. You know, so it has turned a lot of the younger actors' heads around also. Okay, hello, we always thought of America as such a modern and such a progressive country. It isn't. The people are about as backward as us in terms of social mores, and the changes are as difficult. The challenges are as many. So that wonderful sense of universality, which this film has given me a taste of, I just can't get enough of it.
Suhasini, in your interviews, you've mentioned that while you won awards for other films, the film that's closest to you is Manattal Uruthi Vendum, pardon my pronunciation. And women have come up to you, people have come up to you and told you that the film has changed their lives. I want to ask you the question of, when does cinema stop being a means of entertainment and become a tool for changing lives?
I didn't even realize when I was doing the film it was going to have that kind of an effect. For example, the Sindhu Bhairavi, the film that I did earlier for Balachandar, which kind of, you know, I was recognized as an actress only after that film. when I heard the story, it was the story of the other woman. Okay, so I was so disappointed because as an ambitious actress, there's a man, there is a wife, and there is the other woman. And nobody's going to like me, is what I thought. Then I said, there is a genius who's directing it, so let me leave it with him. And that character was liked by everybody, loved by everybody. Won a national award for me, the mainstream film, but won a national award for me. And then I realized at that point, it was 1983, 84, the film released, men could not even look out for an intellectual companion in a woman in the society. It was not possible. So many men came up to me and told me, it opened up so much for us, that it is possible to have a relationship, intellectual relationship or an artistic relationship, because it was about two musicians who understood each other, who communicated with each other. But the wife was not a musician, so it was an eye-opener for me, the character where I thought people will not like it, being the other woman. But so many men came up and said it. And similarly, Manadil Urdi Vendam, when I did the role, I don't like the over-indulgence of that empowerment of women or, women's liberation kind of a thing, but Balachandra believes in it. In all his films, the woman was, it was women-centric, and she was all-powerful and sacrificial and things like that. Somewhere I think, I belong to the next generation. You can have your fun too. You don't have to sacrifice, but still be all-powerful as a woman. But I didn't agree with a lot of scenes that we did in the film because she gives up her marriage. She gives her kidney to her ex-husband. Okay. Because she's a woman. So she does that, that kind of sacrifices. I didn't agree with all that. That guy threw you out of your life. How can you give him a kidney? I'm not that noble. How can I give him a kidney? I argued with him, and things like that. But later on, to the same case that we are referring to, Tiruchengodu, there was a case filed, and I was summoned to come and appear in person. And if I didn't file a reply or something in the court on a particular time, I would be arrested or something like that. There was this woman who called me, who was a lawyer. I still remember her so fondly, and she said, I'm going to file it in time for you. And what they did was they locked her inside the room so that she doesn't file, because they wanted to see me in court. Okay, these things happen. Yes, these things happen. So she jumped out of the window and took a two-wheeler and went to the other side and filed the... Yeah, she did it. And she didn't even charge me any money for it. And she said, I did it for that one film that you did, Manadil Urdi Vendam. It shaped me. Because of that film, I am whoever I am. So you don't even know when you do a film that is the effect that it has on people.
I want to ask you one more question before moving on to Amit. In your answers to the Hindu's Proust questionnaire, you said that the trait you deplore most in others is, and I quote, accepting mediocrity, celebrating banal work, populism, trying to go along with the tide only because you feel you'll be singled out. How do you ensure that your work and your personality avoid that, despite being in an industry that I presume very much celebrates those traits?
No, I don't avoid. I get into trouble all the time. I say the wrong things where they don't expect me to say it. I mean, I still remember, I think I can be open about it. I just dislike people with bad taste. I cannot bear it. I grew up in a small village, and I didn't even know how to speak English till I was 16 or 17, because we studied in Tamil medium. So anybody who spoke good English and was well educated and was decent, I always thought he'll have great taste in cinema and art. When I came to Bombay, it was shattered. All men were well dressed and they spoke very well, and they were very, very chivalrous, and they quoted poetry and something like that. And then they saw, what is that movie? Ek Do Teen movie.
Teza.
And they said it was fantastic. And this was great, that was great. And I just sunk. And I said, I'm not coming to the city anymore. Seriously, like the Dabang moment, I had it. And, I really don't like people who have bad taste. I mean, compared to mine. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying my taste is good, but compared to mine, those 5 men who were sitting there, and I said, I'm not coming back to this city. I'm not meeting the men in Bombay. That's what I said. I'm like that. So I often get into trouble. And now that I'm over 50, when people say, that film was great, this film is fantastic, this role is beautiful, I just keep quiet, zip it. Because, you don't want to offend people. And it's tough. It's really banal work being appreciated. And somebody becoming a star for no reason and keep on appreciating his films because you got used to it, it is just unbelievable. I cannot act next to him. Something happens to me when he's a bad actor. But he's a star. I'm so sorry to be being ruthless like this with a youngster, but that's what, bad actors and bad directors put me off. But what to do? I have to be polite and keep quiet. And the same goes, when somebody does well, you appreciate them too.
But this is happening across the board in India, isn't it? Banal stuff, mediocre stuff, maybe all around the world. Look at the kind of movies we are making.
Television, Indian television. I mean, we have a television company and we were producing serials. And then I made one with two lawyers. Very interesting story of the writer Sujata. One is a funny guy, the other one is like a rational thinker. And then the TV people are saying, when are you appearing? I said, they are investigating criminal cases and death, murder cases. I have to be the one who gets murdered because it's not about women. So it is like that. Television is so banal, especially in the 90s to 2000. I think Netflix and all are so fantastic. We should take a cue from there. What progressive work they're doing in television. Fantastic. The kind of performances. I don't like most of the Hollywood films. 99% of the Hollywood films I don't see. Because you see, I'm from Film Institute background. See? One upon the two of you. But after seeing American television, I'm in love with it. The best writers are writing for television today. I wish the same could happen in India too, for television. Sorry, I've taken more time.
No, that was lovely. Amit, I want to ask you, I was struck by a possible irony in Newton. There is a scene in the film where Rajkumar Rao's character sort of gives a civics lesson and the importance of an elected democracy to an audience of tribals who neither care nor understand why this is important. And therefore, similarly, your film too is being largely viewed by an urban audience, and it is unlikely to be viewed by that section of the society of which it is so sensitive. So even when we are talking about parallel cinema being more and more mainstream, we're still talking about a very small urban niche, aren't we? Do you see a contradiction in that?
I would like to point out that the film released in Chhattisgarh, it released in places like Kondagaon, Dalli Rajara, Raipur, Bilaspur, Raigad, and also Jagdalpur, So we did release it in all over, not just there, we also released it in places in Jharkhand, places like Gorakhpur. So I really don't believe in making films for an urban elite. I would, in fact, that would be, if that had happened, I would be really sad. So I'm happy that the film managed to reach out to these places. And we had, like people who came to, in fact, it ran for 4 weeks in Dalli Rajara. And the reactions that come to me obviously are filtered, but I find out that people are liking it and are identifying with the story, and they're happy that their story is being shown on screen.
Ratna Pathak Shah, would you say the same thing about Lipstick in My Burqa as well, that it has gone beyond the cities?
I don't know about beyond the cities. I think it has, because I've been to places like Patiala and, around. There was a play that I was doing in Patiala, and there were people from around Patiala who had come to see the play, and they had all seen Lipstick Under My Burqa. I mean, Amazon Prime does get
yes, of course.
around.
Now it is on Prime.
So that helps, and that does give us access of the sort that we never had before. And don't forget, the audience today is a rapidly changing audience, and it is a by and large educated audience.
Right.
Large numbers of our people in this country are tech savvy, they are on mobile phones, they use the internet regularly, and they access entertainment on those media. I think that's a huge step forward. It takes you out of the control of mummy and daddy. You're watching movies you want to watch. My generation had mummy and daddy breathing down our necks about everything we were doing. So that's a big jump forward. I really feel that given another 2 generations, and those generations change so quickly now, I think we'll have a much more literate audience than we ever did in this country.
I take
Inshallah.
the Delhi metro and I can vouch for the fact that people are watching films on their mobiles right through the commute. Yes. So we have about 8 minutes left and I'd like to throw it open for questions. Mr. Ram, if you would like to start.
Excellent session. Now, about the role of international film festivals. I know how deeply Suhasini is involved in this. And unfortunately, the Hindu couldn't measure up to our expectations. We partnered earlier, I must confess that. But the role of that in the world of films, related to it, I recently read this book called The Making of Shatranj Ke Khilari by Suresh Jindal, not a great writer, but it's got magnificent material, the letters and so on, the notes. Does somebody like Satyajit Ray still, does he resonate his films? Is he the Bradman of Indian cinema, and can people aspire to those standards? And these two are sort of, I don't know if they're related, but...
Definitely to us, and to Ratna and me, 100%. Amit, you have to ask Amit. I mean...
Yeah, in my experience, international film festivals really help because they open up. It's in a way, in language of politics, it's soft diplomacy. You know, you're opening your country and your culture to a foreign audience, and it also opens markets. Like it opens markets, like there are markets in South America, in Europe, in Americas, in Asia, which get opened up because of these festivals. But also I feel that in my experience, film festivals have always, I think everybody will agree with this, that it does help us reach out to more people.
And I have to thank Hindu, because they have been funding the Chennai Film Festival for 2 years, and the entire money came from them, other than what government gives, and they've been very, very supportive.
Yeah, very good afternoon.
And our festival director wants only Hindu to be the sponsor, because he says that's the kind of newspaper which people who see international films will be reading. So I want everything to be there only.
Yeah,
We'll have this young man here, and then we'll come to you next.
Yeah, my question is to Mr. Amit here. Do you get enough financial support for when Newton got to Oscar submission for PR skills and other things in US? Do you got enough financial support from Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, FFI, and your producer Manish Mundra? And another question to Mrs. Suhasini, madam. One question to you also.
So let him answer that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the money was promised, but I'm not sure if it has reached, because we were also promised money when the film went to Berlin, but I think it takes time. I think the previous film, Vetrimaran's film, was there. I'm not sure if they've also received it. Yeah, please let me know.
I think in Union Budget also it was announced for MIB to allocate for whichever film gets submitted to Oscar.
But it's a process, and I'm sure it'll eventually come. But having said that, my producers invested in the film because we had already released it in India, and it did commercially well in India. So they had the capital to invest in a campaign in the US for the Oscars.
So we'll take 2 short questions. We are running out of time. Namrata is waiting to ask a question there. First, you may go ahead, Mrs.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. My question is, there are so many movies made on biographies, like politically sensational or religious sensational movies, which has been banned, or a protest has been made on those movies. So why can't that kind of movies, can it be released through the internet? I'm just asking the distribution, like when Kamal Haasan sir did it, but he did not succeed on it. But why can't some movies can be released on internet?
I think a producer will have to answer this question, because we are all artists. We just contribute to a film.
A film that gets released on Netflix cannot be shown in a theatre for 15 years. It cannot be shown on television anywhere. There are several issues that I suppose producers have to look at from various ways now. Only then would they take a decision. This, as she said, is not in our hands at all. and they will get released eventually on the internet. That's exactly what Amit was saying, that it is a fairly democratic medium, and you're not going to keep these things hidden anymore. That's the nice thing about the internet.
Yeah, I wanted to add this, See, first ever time when I directed, right from the Film Institute, and after that I became an actress, and then it was in 1989, I think. It was so easy for me to make a film on women because women were in transition in South India. What my mother could not be, I was. And it was so easy to make the transition. Film industry is in that kind of transition. From cinema, from the theatre, it is going to the next level. So this is the time where you can do all the experiments. Once the medium is like kind of registered and done, yes, it's going to be on internet, it's going to be on your phone, it is going to be probably through a peephole in your house or whatever. After that, there is no going back. So this is the best time that people like Amit and other young filmmakers like, Lipstick Under My Book, all of us, can take it to the next level. And it's so fertile right now because of the transition in technology. I wanted to record that.
We'll take one quick question, please.
My question to Madam Shah. You just said Dabangg is a bit childish and many other Indian movies concurrently. Are we not disrespecting the Indian audience and allowing them to like what they want to like? But we have no problems in watching non-existent characters like Spider-Man or Superman or Pokemon or Doraemon. So, are we not entitled to...
We got your question.
I think the Indian audience disrespects itself. Not me. I don't have to disrespect the Indian audience. The Indian audience disrespects itself if it continues to watch only Dabangg kind of films. As the Hollywood audience disrespects itself if it only sees Spider-Man. Hai na? The fact is, so many different kinds of films are being made in our country. Why watch only one? I'm not suggesting that you only watch Newton or Lipstick Under My Burqa. I'm saying the fact that we have access to so many different kinds of films is a wonderful thing. The film industry, on the other hand, tries to clamp down on anything that is not Dabangg. It is hard to push an unusual project through with using the traditional film industry studio system. You have to go outside it to do something. And that's true for Hollywood as well. It's very hard because they are only thinking of the money. They are only looking at it from the point of view of making money. They are not looking at it from the point of view of a film. I'm talking about the fact that there are many people making films like that who want to talk to you in another language. There are documentaries, there are short films. Why should all of them not exist together? Of course Dabangg must exist. Main kaun hoti hu na kehne wali? Of course Dabangg has to exist here. But why only Dabangg? That is my question. I'm scared if it is only Dabangg.
I'm afraid we've absolutely run out of time. Thank you very much. This has been a lovely panel, and thank you. You've been a great audience.
Thank you, Ms. Ratna Pathak Shah, Ms. Suhasini Maniratnam, Mr. Amit Masurkar, and Veena Venugopal. I request Veena Venugopal to present mementos to our guests as a token of our appreciation. The memento is a print of the first editorial of The Hindu.